Hey everyone, we're live. It's Jamal with Review Me and Papercut Magazine, and we're chilling with the awesome photographer Dove Shore, based out in LA. His work is absolutely amazing. Celebrity and fashion, lifestyle, and you can even say swimwear photographer. Some of the things about him: he's been shooting for a while. He's represented by Angela DeBona Agency. Clients include Cosmo, Mixed Mag, Harper's Bazaar. Some of the celebrities he shot is Michael Keaton, James Franco, Michael Jordan, Jeremy Piven, Eddie Redmayne. You can check out some of this stuff on his website. So, Dub, just give us a quick 1 or 2 minutes about yourself, real quick, and then we'll get going.
1 or 2 minutes. I born and raised in Colorado. Mom was an artist. Grandma was an artist, and probably my grandmother, the biggest influence in my life as far as art wise, in a large way. Always just like included me in her work and had me working in her studio. And I think that's where I caught the art bug, and it was born. And then I also had a really I had a next door neighbor who was a best friend. His mom was a photographer, which ended up being a big influence in my life too. And her name was Eileen Lewis, and she studied under Diane Arbus. She did like really great portraits. And then and then went to school, went to jail, got out of jail. I've had a fun road, and very grateful for where I am today. It's like everybody's. It's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, that's the normal photography path that I hear about. You know, your mom's friend is a photographer. You go to jail, and then you make it.
Yeah,
actually, that's not that common at all. But So when you went to school, did you study photography, or did you just kind of learn on your own and just get obsessed with it?
I was actually more obsessed with filmmaking, the power of filmmaking, I think, from an early age, like going to see just, movies that, really moved me. And I was never much of a reader, terrible dyslexia. I just gave up on reading, to be honest, and writing. Just never came easy, and I knew it wasn't going to. No matter how hard I worked, I would just go to read and do shit like that, and words would move around on me. I couldn't spell right, and so the visual medium just became my friend right away. If I wanted to learn anything, it was from movies, it was from photography books, all of that sort of stuff. So I quickly just kind of like adapted to that, and then in school, I knew, I think around 11th grade, that I wanted to do filmmaking. And so I went to USC Film School for a summer, and I thought I wanted to be a filmmaker. I was out here. I went to 2 years at Emerson College, was studying mass communication and film, and then was concentrating in photography for cinematography. And then I dropped out after 2 years. I came out to LA and just started working internships, but wasn't really serious about life at the time. I was still kind of partying, thinking I was going to meet people in clubs that were going to help me out, and meet people at night that were going to move my career along. And I was very delusional when I got out here. Took a break from all that after probably 6 years out here, just struggling, being assistant to like a bunch of really good directors and getting some great experience, but not doing anything for myself. So I took a break for 2 years. I worked for a computer company, try to figure my shit out, get more serious on life. And then a friend of mine I was living with, make a long story short, was in a band, and said, why don't you come in the studio? I'm putting together this kind of super group, and you should just come in and shoot some photos. And so I went and bought a camera at Urban Outfitters, shot some photos, and something on that day and then within those couple days just clicked. Digital hadn't taken off, so making a short film cost $10,000 to $15,000 because you needed to buy film. And but doing photography was something I felt like I could actually start to do and produce work. I could buy a roll of film. I could process it myself. I was in LA. I knew I had to shoot. I loved shooting portraits. I knew that's what I was wanted to do, or work with people. And I knew being in LA, I needed to shoot, music, which was a passion, and celebrity, which I just is the world out here. If you don't want to do headshots, pretty much. And I just started to focus on that, and everything started to click. I stopped partying completely. I stopped using, drugs, alcohol, everything, and life just got really the road got really narrow. And shit started to just come really fast and much easier. And when I say fast, it's not, it's 12 years in the making now, and it wasn't that fast, but at the time it seemed fast because the progress I was making and the faith and the path that for some reason I took really started to just take shape. And so it just felt like shit was always moving. And I was just having, success, not on big levels, but on little levels where, I wasn't having with, in the film world and assisting people. And that was really inspiring to me. And 12 years later, here we are still just on the same road, just every day hustling, working, if I'm not shooting, I'm in the office. My work ethic is really strong, but it's funny. I don't consider it work. Thank God it's the passion, and the passion is taken over, and it doesn't feel like work, and I love doing it. So it's the fruits of the work is coming together.
Yeah, and so in those kind of early days when you were kind of crafting your style, so obviously when you do look at your work, it does have kind of a cinema edge to it in your photography, which is awesome. It's almost like you were shooting film, you could take stills, from that, and that would be your work. So when you were kind of crafting your style early on, what were you doing, and like how were you approaching it?
I think at the end of the day, if I look back, it's all, and today it's getting a lot easier with all that, and trying to figure it out. Obviously, incredibly inspired by certain photographers in certain ways. Camila Akron's for color, Annie Leibovitz for lighting in a lot of ways, Norman Jean Roy for lighting in a lot of ways, Sebastian Salgado and James Nackaway. There's a lot of like big photographers that forever their images will be like burned into my memory, and I always strive when shooting kind of to take little bits from them, with a huge portion of inspiration just from my gut. I get better and better at just trusting my gut and trying to tap into that creative intelligence that I believe we all have, if we can get the fuck out of the way and just let it kind of take over us. And so that's kind of where it all comes from now. A lot of big inspirations, and then now really somewhere else, which I don't know what I want to call it, but I just call it creative intelligence that I don't take any credit for. Somehow I was blessed to figure out how to tap into it and let it come out.
Cool. So this is probably actually a relevant question. I think there could be two parts of it. One is like back when you started out, and then one is now. But the question is from JWC, and she asks, what are some of the ways a photographer can get discovered by potential clients? Is the game mostly social media these days? Does emailing or direct mailing still work? So I guess for you, how did you start kind of attacking getting clients early on, and then what's it like now? Obviously, well, you have an agency, but like, what would you say for that emerging photographer now?
I don't think it's changed, and even with an agency, it doesn't change for me, and that's why I feel really good about where I'm at in my career, because I've always and I teach a class on the business of photography. It's actually my favorite class I taught. I haven't taught it for a while, but it's a huge component that I think as photographers we don't want to like look at. It's easy just to kind of think about just making good pictures and this, that, the other. And, a huge part, I think, of my success is attacking the business side. How did I do it then? How did I do it now? It's still the same. It's just on a different level. When I did it, early on, it was just me, and I was just focusing on local magazines and starting to send emails, like a lot of email blasts with some new work and letting them know that, I'd love to work with them. MySpace started to take off when I first started, and I would post my work on MySpace, and then Facebook started. And I would go to big photographers, and I would go add all of their fucking friends and on Facebook. And so I had a news feed that was huge. All these people would accept me. A lot of them were photo editors. I put up my work all the time, and people started seeing my work that way, along with, emailing the right magazines at the right time. I think the biggest thing, and I was talking about it with my staff today, the biggest thing about photography now and marketing is knowing where you fit in the marketplace. We just had a meeting with Elle Magazine, and it was like I met with, one of the girls who does the front of the book, and I was explaining to my crew what the front of the book is versus, the cover and the big fashion stories. And it's important to be able to size yourself up and know where you fit in the marketplace and be really honest with yourself. Not brutally honest where you're not like giving yourself the credit, but just you got to have a gauge of where you honestly fit in the market and where your work fits in the commercial market, if that's what you want. And then to start to just build lead lists and contacts of these people. So, that's what I did. And, and we just constantly sending emails. Like today, we just send more emails, but it's the same thing. I'm constantly making new work and making sure it gets in the right hands of the right people and gets seen so I can get thought of jobs and do it on a consistent basis so that when that job finally comes by someone's desk, your email comes in relatively around that time and they think, oh, let's give this guy a chance, and it's a numbers game. But it's really important that you kind of create your vision, your product, and then make sure it gets into the right people's hands.
Cool. Yeah, definitely have heard that a lot. And in terms of you, when you're thinking of your outreach, what's kind of your breakdown between shooting editorial, shooting personal work to make sure your untouched vision is, being put out there, and then advertising, which is obviously paying the bills? What's kind of your breakdown and how do you approach it?
It's all so different. It's hard. Nothing compares to your personal work. When you go out and you shoot and you don't have anybody over your shoulder, that process is as good as it gets. And some clients will let you do that. You know what I mean? They will literally just like we want your stamp on this. We want this to be what you do, and they'll get out of the way, and it's great. But that's rare. And I think as far as my stamp of who I am to get across my work, sometimes I'm able to give that stamp, and sometimes people hire me and they don't want that. They just want me to do something pretty normal. And I think for me, it's important for me to be able to distinguish when they want what I do, which is kind of like you're saying, kind of a backlit, maybe, I don't know, just like a backlit cinematic kind of more serious moment or deep moment, opposed to sometimes they just want to sell a product and they want me to just bring out energy and give them something, that's quite middle of the road. So, it's just important sometimes. I think the biggest thing I've learned is just knowing when I can put my stamp on it and when to just back off. And that's the thing about personal work. It's beautiful because you can put your stamp and it's no question. And then the commercial work, you've got to be ready to back off. That's what they're paying you for. They're kind of the boss. And then that's just my philosophy. I know certain photographers, they don't back off. They're like, this is what I do. If you don't want me to do what I do, I'm sorry. But I'm not that I'm not that way.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, you just at the end of the day, you like to shoot, so you'll, yeah, that's. I think that's important. So let's actually get into the work. I think that's always the best. That way we can see what projects were where you had to back off and what projects did you get to put your stamp on it.
Yeah.
So all right, you can see that obviously, right?
Yep, I like it.
Make it a little bigger. Yeah, we'll let this scroll through for a couple seconds just to let some of these cool images kind of go through. We got Lenny Kravitz here, honestly. That's awesome. Nice beach shot. Yeah, and I like, you can do studio, you can do location, you can do bright colors, you can do, more muted tones like this one. You definitely have kind of a wide range of visuals, a wide range in visual style, which is great.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, like, my go-to is definitely to play with color, give it something kind of ordinary, that feels relatable, but also definitely feels like, a moment. It's really hard for me to stay with like just normal color balanced work. It just never sits right with me. So the stuff that you do see sometimes come out, sometimes it actually works, like because you're working with so much color within the frame that it works. But most of the time I have to do, my treatments on them.
So obviously you have a ton of celebrity work. Walk us through the big obviously you have to be comfortable with dealing with, celebrities, and walk us through how you work with them to get the shot. Maybe if you see a particular image as I scroll, you can stop me and talk about, how you worked with that particular person if there's an interesting story in your head.
Yeah, I mean, you're scrolling through this Topher Grace story, which we did, and I was inspired originally from a series of photos. I think Usai did, a photographer here that I like his work. I like, and it was like basically this writer who'd gone mad kind of story, and he always did it in a much more fashion, make the males look really pretty type of way. And so when I got this, when I was doing Topher, I kind of just set up. I knew I like props. I need all that stuff. And actors really like props. They need a lot of direction. They're not models. But if you give them props and you give them a certain scenario where they kind of can just be like they are in a film, and then and just like you said, and I can take stills, I can really get an amazing kind of moment from them and let them do what they do best. And with this, that's what I did. I went out and I just found a trashed hotel, kind of like an old school hotel, and a typewriter and books and all this stuff. And I just kind of like set up this scenario. And then Topher just really just took to it. Like most actors do in these sort of scenarios, it's their comfort zone. And he just became that character. And it became one of his favorite shoots he's done. He's requested me for many shoots after that. And was, so that was just one of those, and that was a success. That was some of the ways that I've learned how to create success with actors, because a lot of times, you're not given the ability to have a location, and you put them on a white cyc or a seamless, and they don't know what to do, unless they've been doing it for a while and they know they get the game, like look right, look left, give you this, that, the other. But a lot of them don't have the experience you think they have when they step into it. With this, with that story, it was like, anytime I can create an environment and let them just create an actor, I always get the most out of my celebrity.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, just keeps going. Celebrity after celebrity. Your style stays intact, which is amazing. Let's see what else. Oh, one other thing I actually really enjoy about your work is actually the swim in the lingerie stuff. And I like it because, especially with a lot of emerging photographers, it's very hard to get it right. Usually it can be trashy, it can be too over the top, but you find that nice balance of sexy product / sophistication. Let's see if we can go in and kind of find something here that works. I think we just click on, right? Can we click?
Yeah, and then you click on each story.
Okay, cool.
I have them all, but no, I appreciate you saying that. It gives me goosebumps because that shit's real, and it makes me know that you have a good sense of photography. because you know that these sort of like the swim lingerie is really taking off commercially.
Yeah.
The meetings we've had lately and the success that we've had and the way it makes me feel. I've known from the very start when I started photography that the way I shoot women is some sort of way that just works. And I'll tell you a funny backstory. I have been, you know, since I was in high school, obsessed with these sort of women for like photograph moments. I was really inspired by the early Sports Illustrated stuff, back when Diane used to be the photo editor. And they had Rafael Mancuso and, you know, Elle Macpherson, these sort of people shooting for it. And it was a very natural way that they used to shoot. It feels way too polished today than when I used to be super inspired by it. And my walls in boarding school were plastered with the magazine pictures. Like I would cut them all out and put them all over. And I didn't even know I was into photography or women at the time. I didn't know. I just enjoyed the photos. But I literally wallpapered my pictures with Sports Illustrated and those sort of photos. And now looking back at that, it all makes sense. But it's funny how like at the time, I would just put it up because I enjoyed it. And I wasn't even into photography or shooting women. You know, it was something. But yeah, I'll tell you, I absolutely love women. I love the body. I love the interaction. There's some sort of like experience that happens when I shoot and I find someone like a woman's look that inspires me, that I just fight for the right angles. And I like to, you know, like you said, it doesn't look trashy or anything, because I've got so much respect for the woman form and the power that it has over me that I want to show it in its best form. And especially the women that will give it to you, you know, when they work for it and they're moving all around and this, that, the other, and they trust you. I want them to look gorgeous and you know, and women are, you know, let me tell you, they're creators, man. I put them on another level. So I have a lot of respect for women, and I just love shooting them, and it just comes easy.
And you know, one other thing that I like when you look at your website is that, you know, usually you would like, if someone just looked at like your first set of images, they'd be like, oh, wow, that guy's great at doing that. But then you could do this whole other swim lingerie thing. But then you could do fitness. But then you can do covers at personal, fashion, music, advertising. You're kind of one of those rare photographers you've actually figured out how to shoot a number of different things, but maintain your style. So I guess just kind of talk about that. And maybe we'll look at some advertising work, which is, again, probably going to be a little bit different than your swimwear / celebrity stuff, you know, your more cinematic stuff. It's pretty, you know, incredible that you can hit upon all these different.
Yeah, thank you.
Vectors.
Well, you know, it starts from the beginning. I was, you know, I think in photography, I've always only, you know, I listen to others when I get critiques on my book, and I used to get it a lot. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't let it influence me that much. If I felt in my gut something else, I would do it anyways. Like from the beginning, people told me to stop shooting, you know, women and just shoot portraits. That's what people wanted me to do, you know, and that's what they thought was strong. Because I started with my homeless series. I'm really inspired by interesting faces, you know, whether it's people from my, you know, pavement portraits and my personal work, or it's like some of the most gorgeous faces in the world, you know, like to me, the face is everything. And I just like uniqueness, whether like, just like I was saying, like these faces to me are some of the most unique. And this goes back to my influences of like Diane Arbus and my next door neighbor, Eileen Lewis, who used to create these just amazing portraits. I'm just in seek for faces that, you know, that really just intrigue me, all the way just straight to the eyes. And so anyways, you know, it's like, I just, you know, from the beginning, sorry to get sidetracked. From the beginning, people would tell me just to focus on my portraits and don't shoot women and this. But I knew in my gut I loved shooting women, and that it was going to take time for it to mature. So I continued to do it, and it's finally actually all kind of coming and maturing at at this point.
Yeah. I want to go
but
back to, sorry, real quick, because you reminded me of something. I wanted to go back to this this latest campaign here for Seven for All Mankind. This would seem like one of those editorials that you mentioned where you kind of had to not put your stamp on it. It seems very middle of the road. Would you say that is one of those kind of shoots with this one? It feels kind of clean.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, this is like, here, this is what we want. This is where the art director comes to you with a reference image that has nothing to do with your work, that anybody could do, that knows lighting really well, and says, here, this is the way we want it to look. The other part of it that I bring to it, I think, is I try to just find the right angle and the right moment with the woman and the guy. You still got to create that energy with them. But yeah, lighting wise and that sort of, definitely you don't have the ability to create your stamp on it.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like your usual, more drama. Whereas something like this has a little bit of your flair in it.
Yeah. And Billabong would let me do my thing. Like that's what they hired me for. Like, here, we're shooting this person and, we love your color treatments. And, the difference all starts right from the creative. So you have these meetings initially with these people, and if you're going to be able to do your thing or their thing initially right from the creative, because if they want you to do your thing, they show you images from your portfolio and say, this is what we want. If they want you to do their thing, they come with images that have nothing to do with your portfolio. It's like usually in all honesty, Seven comes with a bunch of images from J. Crew,
and
damn. And you're like, okay, whatever, we'll give you that. And then Billabong comes from a bunch of images from like my old fashion test.
Yeah, and then that way okay, this is going to be me. I'm actually going to jump into the fitness section because I think this is super hot right now, right? Companies like the whole athleisure thing is really blowing up. So it's interesting that you're now into this segment as well. And this could be considered a completely different style than the celebrity drama stuff you shoot, but yet you can do this too. And obviously this kind of stuff is hugely, lucrative with Lululemon and things like that. So talk about, shooting this kind of stuff. And
this, I don't know if for some reason I never got into it from the beginning, but it comes extremely natural. I think I grew up in Colorado, extremely athletic, and was kind of more of, I was the kid doing art, but also was very much into skiing and soccer growing up. So this is very much a melding of the two, of where I kind of grew up with, and I did a lot, so it was easy for me to get into this because growing up in Colorado, I have friends that are professional bikers, racers and all this sort of stuff. So I get all the gear and I know all of this. And I think it was partially just finally me going and doing, just going back to what I wanted to do again and not what I thought I needed to do. And then also just going after some clients that I've wanted to go after. I really want to work with Nike. And I also, part of it also came from dropping off some of the work that I used to do. I used to think I wanted to be a fashion photographer, and I appreciate fashion, but after long bouts of meetings in New York and this, I've really known that I don't want to have anything to do with being a true fashion photographer. My fashion sense comes from much more of an athletic, natural sense, and I do appreciate fashion, and I think that's what's kind of drawn me to this more athletic kind of vibe. Because if you look, they're still kind of quite styled, just in a different way. Yeah. She's got all black on her, all gray. I still style it, but it's in a more athletic that relates to me, and I don't get the fashion. I'm not a high-end fashion photographer. I'm more of a lifestyle photographer, and that's where the fitness comes in.
Yeah,
and I appreciate the moment, and working with real athletes is cool.
Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, I just think because usually you do hear, you mentioned people, suggesting people do this, people do that. And, sometimes we'll even be like, hey, you should probably focus on just one, just to at least find your style. But for you, and I actually do like it, is that you've always known, I just want to shoot the stuff I'm passionate about. And usually that passion will drive your work forward. And so you're very different from a lot of other people where you can take your style and put it into anything, whether, on your website, like you said, it's swimwear, it's celebrity, the biggest names in the world, or it's just like, a Billabong, pair of jeans. Like, you're able to inject that into the different areas. And, that I definitely think that's something that more photographers probably need to do to be successful, but it's hard to achieve creatively. So I think you've done that very well.
I'll tell you, thank God I worked for a bunch of photographers in a wide range. I worked for David LaChapelle. I worked for Brian Bowen Smith, two really successful photographers in completely different aesthetics visually. And after working for both of them for a while, what I realized to myself is all I need to do is just keep shooting. And I'll create my own little style out of that. And through color treatment, lighting, and my interaction with the subject, energy, and doing that consistently, shoot after shoot after shoot, and not changing those elements, you'll create the same pictures. And there's your style, And I found whatever just like naturally, I guess, I gravitate to, and that was that sort of lighting, this sort of color treatment, and this sort of kind of interaction with the camera from my subject. And now I just take that, like you said, and I put that over lifestyle, and I put that over fitness, and I put that over, women, and I put that over celebrity. So that's my stamp. My stamp is my color, my interaction, my lighting. And I think anyone who's just like coming up and wants to figure their shit out, that's all they need to figure out. Find out what your color palette is, find out what lighting you like, and find out how you like to interact with your subject, and then do it over and over and over, and then you'll have a style.
Yeah. And then you actually mentioned something there, actually goes perfectly to one of the questions, which is, what were some of the best tips / advice that you received from some of your various mentors, like Dave LaChapelle or, whoever? So talk about some of those things that really kind of drove you forward.
I don't know if I got any tips. And I mean this seriously. Like, I never asked much advice from these guys. I would ask their opinion on some pictures here or there, but I don't think anything was better than the stuff that I kind of came out with myself of just getting different experience. I don't know if that comes off kind of pompous, but it's not. It's more because I don't take credit for it, but I really just started to trust my gut and do little meditations about my work and what I really wanted, and just got more into, from watching other people, I just learned more about myself and my work, and realized what I needed to do. And that was just kind of really trust your gut, find out what you like, and just do it over and over. Because that's what these guys were doing, At the end of the day, they were just creating these pictures that they loved. And over, a course of years, creating a lot of pictures that you love, you have style, and that style is going to be appreciated by someone. And it might take a while, and it might take off right away. But at the end of the day, if you're creating pictures you love, you're having successful days. And that's the end goal, is to walk away from shoots and feel satisfied. Because I used to walk away from shoots and not be, and there's no worse feeling,
Yeah. So let's get into, what are you working on now? What are some of the, things in the pipeline, or what did you just recently wrap up that was interesting that you loved, personal or, commercial?
Yeah. There's a couple of things in the pipeline that I probably can't talk about, but some big clients that we have some meetings with that are going to be career changers, that we hope to just kind of like finally get going. So that's kind of coming down the road, besides some like other like of my normal clients like GQ and like Body Glove and Eberge. Some of those have some good shoots coming up. We did just also finish a cover of GQ Mexico with Kelly, which we're really happy with. And and then also just getting back to be honest, the biggest thing that I'm excited about is to really start to focus and take some time to get back to personal work on any level. Just it's been a long time since I've gone out and shot and not had to focus on a product, or that I was trying to do this to work on my book or this, that, the other. Like I've just recently started to take time and just go shoot and not have a purpose or a goal or where this needed to go. You know, I just wanted to go out and just shoot to shoot, you know, and I forgot what that was like, you know. Everything had been so, you know, purpose oriented. Like, okay, I need to go shoot this fashion test for my fashion book and this, that, the other. And lately I just gone back to like what I did when I first started. And it was just like, have a girl come over and just test, you know, just shoot and just trust the gut, play around, no hair, makeup, no nothing. Just go back to that, really creating that one-on-one connection and trying to create cool, inspiring moments that it's about the photography, but it's also just about the interaction that you have, and using my camera for what it really was in the beginning, which is just access to people and places that I normally wouldn't have access to, and giving me a reason to go do it. You know, it's the reason that I got into the homeless portraits or the pavement portraits. I wanted to learn. I've been always inspired by those people I've seen on the streets and wanted to learn more. And I used my camera as the tool to go down there, take their portrait and hear their story, you know, and so it's nice to just get back to that.
Yeah, I think that's a great project. I mean, I feel like a lot of people walk by homeless people and they're kind of like, you know, who is that person? What is it? You know, why are they there? And I think that's cool. And I think another pretty well-known photographer we had on here, Danny Brubaker, I think she's also based out in California.
I love Danny. Yeah.
Yeah, she does a similar kind of like project like that. And I think those personal projects just kind of bring out, you know, something special, get you back to why you do photography in the first place, which a lot of people can kind of lose track of. It's like, you know, you have to love the art.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's such a special thing about losing myself behind the lens. You know, and that's originally what has always drawn me to photography. I put my eye, you know, behind the lens and in through the viewfinder, and it just becomes this like little game of like composing and matching, and I forget about myself, and that's what I like, you know. And then I have interaction with the subject and this and the other, and with commercial work, sometimes it's so much stuff that you're conceived as the clothing order, this, that, the other, and it's like, you know, it's good to just get back to what is originally the true power of it for me, which is, you know, just losing myself in the moment.
For sure. Anybody, I think I'm pretty much done with questions, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We can invite you guys on for another, you know, we're probably doing this for another 10 minutes or so. While we're seeing if anybody has a question, what's some of your, you know, let's talk toys. What camera are you using? Just kind of while we wait to see if anybody has a question, you know, what's some of your lights that you like to use, you know, any things like that you want to talk about? I
am the most non-technical guy you may, but I, you know, at the same time, I'm technical, but I just know now what works for me, and I don't need to change it. The newest toy I got was a new hazer. And that's a huge part of my work. It's not even light. You think about lighting, you know, what kind of camera or lighting, but to be honest, a huge part of my work and my own personal work is fog and hazing, you know, to create this sort of atmosphere that is very not normal. And that's what I kind of like love in my work. And a lot of the pictures that you kind of show, besides for the swim, you know, some of the swim and lingerie that is beach oriented, but some of the work that I've been creating lately that I really, really appreciate has so much fog and haze in it that we've actually created artificially. And so, you know, my newest toy that I've gotten is a hazer, which I really love. And then I've been, I want to say 6 years now, something just with 5D Mark IIs. I have 2 of them, and I still have had no reason to go to anything different to the Mark III. I'm just not going to see the difference yet. I'd like to maybe try the Sony A7s. I heard they're great in low light because I do shoot a lot of natural light, and I don't like overpowering with strobe. So I'd like to play with that. And then lighting wise, a lot of just really soft light. I use really big, I hardly use hard light. Everything I shoot with has a lot of diffusion, usually big umbrellas or Photech umbrellas with baffles, working with the fall off, and then going through either a 12 by or an 8 by to make it really soft. And that's the influence probably most from Annie Leibovitz you'll see in my work. It's just a much softer kind of light.
Yeah, I love how you're like, yeah, I'm not technical, and then you just proceed to rip off a bunch of things. No, one thing I do like, and now that you pointed out, I do see that the fog, and like that's where you get that kind of that filmic, that drama, that like this is not a real place. You feel it's real, and that like, yeah, that I can totally see that.
Subtle that it's not right in your face.
Yeah, it's ever so slightly subtle.
Yeah, and it's like I go out sometimes, and you get those misty mornings. Like in LA, we get these June gloom mornings, and it's just like the most gorgeous light. It's so soft, and there's like this just light haze everywhere. It's just surreal, and it's very like it's really powerful moment, like light. So yeah, I've just kind of slowly figured out a way to kind of do that in my photography, and I really enjoy it. That's probably more of my stamp now, visually.
Yeah, you definitely, and I like that. Let's kind of look to the future, so to speak. So I've been talking with a lot of photographers. Motion is obviously this new big thing. What are your thoughts there? Are you driving more into that? I'm sure clients are probably saying, hey, can you do a little something for me?
Yeah, I mean, I do some music videos, nothing I'm really super proud of yet. There's a couple that I've done that I'm really proud of. Yeah, there's I have just had a meeting with an actor, and we're putting together kind of a group of artists, and putting together a little creative, I guess, society where we're going to be working with each other. And we have some projects coming up. One just kind of starting with a book project, and then we're going to work on some films and creating some content for that. So I definitely want to move towards motion, but I don't want motion is such a and film just in general is such a passionate thing for me that I don't want to find myself creating motion or films in the same way I create photography. Photography is a commerce, really is to me, and I want to. I don't care if I'm successful at all, or I know I've got like one film that I really want to make, but when I do it, I just want to make sure that it just stays very true to the way I want to do it, and I don't want a bunch of people over my shoulder like I get with photography.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely makes sense. So yeah, it looks like questions are all wrapped up. Yeah, Dov, thank you for joining us today. It's been super awesome to have you on. Your insight both on the business, the production, the visual styles, all been amazing. We'll definitely have to check back in with you down the line to hear about some of your new projects that you have in the pipeline, including this kind of secret society thing or whatever.
Hopefully in the next couple months we'll be able to say something, or it'll be it'll come out and we can talk about it. But yeah, for sure, I would love to do it again. It's I love talking to people about it, and it's funny to hear myself talk too. So
yeah, it's always interesting. Yeah, so thanks for joining us, everybody who's watching. You'll be able to watch this right away after we close this out, and you can jump to the different questions that he answered. Feel free to check out his website, Instagram. Website's devshore.com, Instagram's devshore, Facebook's probably devshore. That's just a guess.
Yeah,
it's all devshore. Yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us, and Dov, thank you for joining us as well.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate all the time and the love, and I love what you guys are doing. So let's do it again.
For sure. Thank you.
All right, you bet. Have a good afternoon.
You too.